Good afternoon. James Walbridge here at Architect Live, and it's an honor to be standing here discussing one of the sessions that I had the privilege to give with my co-presenter, Luis Jauregui, yesterday. We're here to give you a recap of session TH204, Architect-Led Residential Design Build Practice. We did this yesterday from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. We had a fantastic crowd. We had great interaction with everyone there, and it really just was a wonderful way to recap, the first day at the convention. I'm going to introduce my co-presenter, Luis Jauregui, here from Austin, Texas. Luis is going to give you a little background on himself, his firm, and how he participates in the architect-led design-build idiom.
Thank you, James. Well, Luis Jauregui, I'm from Austin, Texas. We have offices in Austin, Houston, and Dallas, and we're a design-build company. We've been in business for about 30 years. And from the very beginning, we started being a design-only company. That lasted about a year and a half. And we did our first project back in the early 80s. Our first project was a project that we developed, and we had a bank that lent us money at the time in 1982. The interest rate was 18%. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, but that was the beginning of a really great experience as a design-build company led by an architect. And from that point on, during the 90s, our company has done projects in the $5 to $10 million a year. During the last 10 years or so, our company has been doing projects 10 to 20 million a year, approximately. So that's a little bit of the story about our company. And we're very excited about this presentation that we did. We're looking at putting together a pre-convention workshop next year in Colorado, too. So I'll pass it on to James. Tell us about his company.
Well, with that kind of revenue, I may go ask Luis for a job. I started my practice in, 18 years ago, after being a newly licensed architect in the state of California. However, I actually begun in the field. So I was a licensed general contractor at 26, became a registered architect at 31, and I proceeded to draw everything by hand, walk out into the field with my business partner, and construct the whole thing. Our architect-led design build focus, the gestalt of our firm, was really about execution and craft and the management of design with the execution. We're very fortunate that we're able to practice in San Francisco in the Bay Area, where we're given the opportunity to be unapologetically modernists, and I'm very happy and proud to say that. Currently, our projects, because there's not a lot of dirt there, we do a lot of remodels, we do a lot of additions. We're not provincial. We'll do a small bathroom for you. We'll do an entire house from the ground up. We're very proud to be able to do that, work at any scale. I met Luis about 2 years ago in Austin, and I found out about his firm, unbelievably successful. We're here basically to recap our session, and our session was sponsored by CRAN, which is an acronym for the Custom Residential Architects Network. CRAN is a newly minted knowledge community for the AIA, and we became a knowledge community last year shortly after the national convention. Of which, at that same time, Luis and I had the opportunity to present our architect-led design-build firms for the first time. We were only given an hour initially, so this year they gave us an hour and a half, and we were able to dive into detail a lot more about the nuts and bolts of what we do and how we do it, and to offer a lot of anecdotal references to a lot of our attendees as to, the pitfalls and the successes that we've had throughout our practices. Luis, you want to start off and talk a little bit about the recap of the sessions, maybe talk about some of the design build approaches and some of the things that we discussed?
Definitely, James. But before I go there, one of the things I wanted to mention to everybody in the convention, speaking of design build and other programs such as CRAN that has some new initiatives, there's a new program that is called Archi 5. It's a group of best practices that is being put together at the grassroots level. There's going to be a meeting tomorrow here at the floor of the convention at 9:30 in the morning at the town center. And so please come over. Companies from different parts, non-competing markets will be getting together to learn about best practices. So that's another initiative that started with the residential knowledge community, actually later housing committee, which is the birth of CRAN, the Custom Residential Architects Network. But anyway, wanted to make sure that you investigate that. It'll be a worthwhile venture. I can tell you that already James and I were at a CRAN forum just before this. We had over 200 residential architects that showed up there. I have the cards here in my pocket of 5 architects already that are design builds that they're ready to start the first Archi 5 group, so I'm very excited about that.
You know, a lot of our focus in our presentation was really taking a look at the concept of the master builder and architect-led design build in general. And oftentimes, you know, people don't really know how to get started in this. They've been thinking about it. So we ran through a myriad of different opportunities on how to set up and strategize your firm to get into being your own builder or IPD, integrated project delivery. We discussed the various ways you can set this up as agent for the owner, agent at risk, and also full-fledged architect-led design build. We firmly believe that the architect is the best individual in the whole food chain of everyone involved on any residential project to lead a design build team. We firmly believe that. We gave a lot of opportunities to substantiate that in our presentations. So why design build, Luis?
Well, our presentation really touched on all the great opportunities there are, as James mentioned, for architects. But really, the main reason, because it's a win-win situation for all the parties involved, and starting with the client. The client is the really first winner out of this process of design build. We're going to get, our client is going to get a tremendous service, shortcutting through a lot of the problems that people that do residential homes. They always think about what a great headache is going to be. They heard it from a lot of their friends. But actually doing a design build brings the team together under one umbrella. They don't need to be looking for a contractor or an architect. All that comes into one umbrella. In our company, we also do the interior design, and we even provide the furnishings. So really the answer is a win-win situation. Like I said, beginning with a client, but then next for you as a company, you're going to have additional sources of income. You also will have a longer project, not just through the design phase, but your firm will be involved from design phase on through construction. Most residential projects, it's about a third of the time they go through the design process and another 2/3 through construction, give or take. So all of a sudden, you're involved in the whole enchilada.
And that single point of responsibility is something that we find a lot of clients really don't know exists. But once they understand that, you know, it's one phone call and everything's under one umbrella and the accountability is there, then that fiduciary position of trust between the architect and the client up front is extended all the way through the entire process. The whole idea is to seamlessly integrate vertically all the processes involved from design through project management into construction. And we found a lot of people in our session speaking to that, saying, well, you know, sometimes their clients would say, hey, would you even consider building this? So we had a lot of questions about that. You know, how could I get into that? How may I step my foot into the water, you know, and test that water without getting burned? How can I assess the risk involved based on the degree of scope that I wanted to, you know, perform with regards to either self-performing work or purely providing project management? Luis?
Well, in our course that we presented yesterday, which, by the way, was recorded, and you can get a copy of that, we really went to the actually nuts and bolts on how to do this. Just like James said, how do you get your foot on the water and really start getting in there? We talked about a lot of the inconsistencies there are in when people think that building a home is something that it is of a lot of complexity and getting into the construction part of things. We really give you a lot of guidance on how to start from your architectural practice and move slowly by possibly hiring a superintendent, and how to start on your first project. There's several good how-to rules of thumbs that you can use. Additionally, I wanted to mention that CRAN is looking to put together this presentation again. I think I mentioned that earlier, in Colorado next year as a pre-convention session.
And, you know, we also went through a lot of the challenges involved. Obviously, it's not a perfect world scenario. There's a lot of instances here with architect-led design build where, you know, you're going to be challenged. And one of those questions that we reviewed with in our session was when the client comes to you and says, how are you going to keep yourself in check if you're also the architect and the general contractor? Where's your system of checks and balances? And I'll tell you, a lot of that happens right up front with salesmanship. And, you know, the opportunity to present yourself as a transparent company where everything is clear and visible to the client, and that you've communicated effectively up front what it is that your intention is, how you're going to organize this design build opportunity, and the fact that you're going to be fully accountable. Really, it boils down to establishing that trust up front early.
Yeah, James, you know, one of the questions that we had yesterday in our session is precisely that question. And one of the answer I gave is you really need to work on your branding, the brand of your company, so that your client or customer as we like to call them in design build, has trust in your company.
Well, we've got to wrap this up. Thanks so much for giving us this opportunity. We look forward
Thank
to
you.
seeing you again next year. Bye-bye.